While this podcast isn't rated explicit, the content may not be suitable for younger listeners. Welcome to Sex for Saints, the Christian couple's guide to great sex. I am your host, certified sex and marriage coach, Amanda Lauder. This is episode 355, Sexual Shame in Men. Welcome to Sex for Saints, a podcast for Christian couples. My goal with this podcast is to help enlighten, educate, and inspire you to understand yourself, your spouse, and your sexuality better. I talk about sex in a way you probably haven't heard before. I'm bold, I'm direct, but I keep everything in line with my strong Christian values. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome back. So happy to have you here. Sexual shame is one of the most powerful emotions we can experience. And when it's tied to something as personal and intimate as sexuality, the impact can be profound. So a few weeks ago, in my episode on prolonging arousal, I touched on sexual shame in men and promised I'd do an entire episode about it because it isn't talked about much, and it needs to be talked about so much more. So in this episode, we're delving into this much needed topic, sexual shame in men, what it is, how it manifests differently from women, and the factors that contribute to it, and the steps men can take to heal. So let's start by understanding what sexual shame actually is and why it's such a significant issue. Sexual shame refers to the feeling that there's something inherently wrong, dirty, or sinful about one's sexual thoughts, desires, and behaviors. So this isn't just embarrassment or discomfort. It's a deep internalized sense of unworthiness tied to sexuality. For example, a man might feel ashamed for being aroused by something that he's been told is inappropriate, even if it's completely natural and harmless. And this shame creates barriers to healthy sexual expression, intimacy, and really self-acceptance. So imagine a man who grows up in a conservative household where any discussion of sex is avoided and sex, masturbation, or even pornography is labeled as bad. As he enters adulthood, he may struggle to see his sexual desires as normal, causing him to suppress them or feel guilty every time they arise. If he masturbates or looks at pornography, he sees himself as a bad person and unworthy of love from others, including his spouse and God. This internal conflict is the essence of sexual shame. Other examples include men who avoid looking at their own bodies in the mirror, fearing judgment, or men who immediately feel shame or disgust after experiencing pleasure, as if they've done something wrong. So while sexual shame impacts both men and women, it manifests differently due to societal and cultural expectations. So men are often expected to be confident, dominant, and always ready for sex. And this creates a paradox where they must hide any invulnerability or insecurity, even if they feel it deeply. For instance, a woman's sexual shame might stem from messages about purity and passivity, while a man's might revolve around the belief that he should always want sex and perform perfectly. So a man who struggles with arousal or performance might feel like he's failed at being a real man, which only deepens the shame and makes it even harder. Examples of how this shame manifests includes a man avoiding sex altogether out of fear of not living up to expectations, or even overcompensating by pursuing exaggerated sexual behaviors to mask his insecurities. Others might exhibit shame by being overly critical of themselves or their partners during intimate moments, creating a barrier to true emotional and physical connection. It might exhibit as premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction. A man might refuse to discuss fantasies or desires, labeling them as weird or wrong. And he might not even be able to talk about it, but that's what he's feeling internally, when all of these things are very, very normal. So what causes sexual shame in men? Well, it often has roots in very early experiences and societal conditioning. So here are some common causes. The first is religious teachings. So many men grow up with religious messages that equate sexual thoughts or behaviors with sin. For example, a teenage boy who is told that masturbation is sinful might carry that guilt into adulthood, associating any sexual act with wrongdoing. A man might also fear that his natural urges are a sign of moral weakness, leading him to repress or even deny his sexuality. Then we have family dynamics. So if parents avoid conversations about sex or they scold a child for exploring their body, it creates a very lasting impression that sexuality is taboo. A man might recall being caught masturbating as a teen and being yelled at, reinforcing a sense of shame around his sexual desires. And this can lead to long-term anxiety about his body and natural processes. Societal expectations is the other one. So society often portrays men as hypersexual beings who should always be ready and willing. And this puts immense pressure on men to conform to an unrealistic standard. A man who doesn't fit this mold may feel like there's something wrong with him, like if he doesn't always initiate, or if his sex drive fluctuates, or if he struggles with premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction, there's something inherently wrong with him. And then lastly is gender narratives. So messages that sex is something that you do to a woman can make men fear harming their partner or coming across as overly aggressive. And this can lead to hesitation that's rooted in shame rather than genuine care or connection. For example, a man might feel paralyzed when initiating sex and intimacy, unsure how to balance desire with respect, like we talked about in episode 349 on objectifying your spouse. Hey there, listeners. Exciting news. I'm opening up a few spots for one-on-one coaching again, and I'm thrilled to work with both men and women this time. If you're looking to transform your intimacy and relationships, this is your chance. Our coaching journey will span 12 weeks, giving us the time and space to make real, impactful changes. Interested? Head over to my website for more information and to secure your spot. Don't wait too long. These spots will fill up fast. Let's work together to create the relationship you've always dreamed of. So now that we've talked about the causes and how it comes up for men and what we typically see, let's talk about what happens, what's the results of this sexual shame in men. It doesn't just stay internal. It impacts relationships, emotional health, and even physical well-being. So here are some of the common outcomes. First is performance issues. So anxiety caused by shame often manifests itself physically, leading to premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction. A man might overthink his performance so much that he's unable to relax and enjoy the moment. For example, he might replay past failures in his mind, which only worsens the issue. The second is control and suppression. So men might suppress their sexual desires to avoid feelings of guilt, which can lead to resentment or emotional disconnection in their relationships. For example, a husband might avoid initiating with his wife, fearing that she'll see him as overly sexual. Suppressed desires might come out in unhealthy ways like irritability or even passive-aggressive behavior. The third is emotional disconnect. So shame creates walls between partners. A man who feels ashamed of his sexuality might struggle to be vulnerable or emotionally present during sex, leaving his partner feeling distant or unimportant. An example of this might be a man who uses humor or distractions during intimate moments to avoid facing his own discomfort. And number 4 is unhealthy coping mechanisms. So to manage their shame, some men turn to compulsive pornography use or other distractions, which only masks the deeper issues. So others might self-medicate with substances, which further distance themselves from addressing the root of the problem. For instance, a man might spend hours gaming to escape his feelings of inadequacy or having to deal with hard issues. So how do we fix this? Well, healing from sexual shame requires awareness, effort, and support. So here are a few strategies to help. The first is building awareness and understanding. The first step is always recognizing the origins of sexual shame and even that you have sexual shame. So reflecting on experiences and identifying harmful beliefs is really crucial. For example, a man might realize his shame started when he was taught that his body was dirty during puberty. So journaling or talking with trusted friends or a partner or a coach could be a good starting point here. The second is therapy or coaching. So professional support can be invaluable. A therapist or coach can help men unpack societal, religious, and familial influences. Cognitive behavior therapy can be especially effective in reframing negative thought patterns around sexuality. For instance, therapy might help a man understand that his fantasies are not shameful, but a natural part of his humanity. Number 3 is practices like Tantra and mindfulness. So Tantra emphasizes connecting with your body and experiencing pleasure without judgment. One of the things that I really love about Eastern philosophies and Tantra specifically is it really incorporates the whole body, and it talks about light and dark, that we all have both within us, which is how God created us. And we need to not shy away from the darker parts of ourselves, the hidden parts of ourselves, but need to bring light to it and embrace it and work through it to become better people. And I love that about Tantra. And then we have, mindfulness practices like deep breathing during sex. That can really help men stay present and reduce overthinking. If you are really focused on your breathing, your mind calms and you can't be thinking about all of the other things that are bringing up the anxiety. So instead of focusing on performance during those things, I really encourage men to start focusing on the sensation of touch and creating more meaningful connection with their partner. Number 4 is education and reframing. So learning that sexuality is a very natural and healthy part of being a human can help transform perspectives. Reframing masculinity to include vulnerability and emotional connection helps men feel more comfortable with their true selves. For instance, a man might read books or take courses or come into coaching that can really help redefine strength and openness and authenticity. Number 5 is healthy communication with partners. So really being open and sharing your fears and insecurities with a supportive partner can really deepen intimacy and reduce shame. For instance, a man might express his anxiety about initiating sex, creating an opportunity for mutual understanding and reassurance. Partners can also work together to rewrite their sexual narratives, fostering collaboration rather than fear. And number 6 is reconnecting with the body. So practices like yoga or movement therapy can really help release shame stored in the body. A lot of times when I'm working with clients that have a lot of shame, I will do a lot of somatic work, which means work in the body to help them release a lot of that shame that's being held on in their body. And really, working to celebrate the body's ability to experience pleasure without guilt fosters a healthier relationship with yourself. For example, a man might practice self-compassion exercises to counteract years of negative self-talk. So sexual shame in men is deeply rooted, but it is entirely possible, often with some help, to overcome. By becoming aware of its origins, embracing new perspectives, and seeking support, men can move forward toward a more fulfilling and shame-free sexual identity. So if you or someone that you love is struggling, know that there is help and healing available. And if this episode resonated with you, I really encourage you to explore these topics further through therapy or coaching, or even just open conversations. So for more resources, you can visit my website or reach out for one-on-one support. And together we can break free from the cycle of shame and create healthier and happier relationships. All right, my friends, that's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for joining me. Remember, love is a journey, not a destination. Stay committed, stay passionate, and stay connected. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Like what you're hearing on this podcast? Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Don't forget to leave me a review and share it with your friends.